Baba Vanga predicted this moment. The fall of modern society has started. The beginning of the end doesn't arrive with thunder. It arrives in silence, disguised as normal life. When the world forgets its roots, it begins to fall, an old saying goes, and perhaps that's where we are now. A quiet unraveling is underway. No headlines screamed it, no monuments collapsed, but something is slipping subtly, deeply, beneath our modern comforts. And one voice from the past seems to have seen it all coming. She was blind, yet saw more clearly than most ever will. Baba Vanga. A woman of few words, yet those words echo louder with each passing year. She did not warn us of monsters or meteors. She warned us of ourselves, of our disconnection, our arrogance, our fragile illusions. And now her prophecy is no longer a distant echo. It's here. It's now. Before we journey further into what may be one of her most chilling predictions, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Journey of Wisdom, and share it with someone who seeks truth beyond the surface. If you believe wisdom should be free and fearless, your support helps us keep these teachings alive. Now, take a breath and walk with us into the turning point of our age. Number 1. Who was Baba Vanga? Baba Vanga, a name that echoes with mystery and awe, was born in 1911 in a modest village that once lay within the borders of the Ottoman Empire. Her early life offered no signs of the extraordinary path she would take. She was just a simple, humble girl growing up in hardship, tending to chores like any other child in rural poverty. But life has a way of reshaping destinies when we least expect it. At the age of 12, a violent and unexplained storm swept through her village, altering her life forever. Lifted by fierce winds and thrown into a nearby field, she was found days later, her eyes sealed shut and body covered in dirt and tears. But she had survived. What her family did not know then was that Baba Vanga would never be the same again. From that moment on, she began to speak with strange insight, as if the veil between the present and the future had been pulled back just enough for her to see through it. Her neighbors first dismissed her odd speech patterns as confusion from trauma, but that sentiment quickly faded as she began describing events that had yet to occur, sometimes with disturbing precision. She spoke of disasters and deaths with unsettling clarity, naming places she had never seen and people she had never met. As time passed, whispers spread across the Balkans that she might be more than just a traumatized child. Perhaps she was a vessel of foresight. Baba Vanga would go on to predict major events in world history with haunting accuracy: the fall of the Soviet Union, the 9/11 attacks in New York, the nuclear tragedy in Fukushima, and the sinking of the Russian submarine Kursk. All of these she reportedly foretold, despite never setting eyes on them or the world again. Her blindness seemed not to limit her vision, but to expand it inward, turning her gaze beyond the ordinary and into the flow of time itself. Of course, skepticism is natural. In a world built on logic and science, the idea of a blind mystic foreseeing the future challenges our sense of control. And yet, we must also recognize that throughout history, people have risen from obscurity to become voices of deeper wisdom, often dismissed in their time until their words come to pass. Baba Vanga was no scholar, no scientist, and yet her predictions seem to mirror global events too closely to be brushed aside as pure coincidence. So one must ask, How did a woman from an unknown village, without formal education or worldly knowledge, speak of tragedies and transformations decades before they unfolded? Are we simply trying to find meaning in chaos? Or is there something ancient and unexplained beneath her visions? This brings us to what may be her most unsettling prophecy, a cryptic but powerful warning that points toward the unraveling of modern society. Baba Vanga didn't scream her message, she whispered it through metaphor, hinting at a time when people would lose their connection to each other and to nature, when technology would advance but morality would decay, and when the very fabric of communities would begin to disintegrate. For many, these words were too vague to fear, but look around today. Polarization is everywhere, compassion is often overshadowed by self-interest, and mental health crises rise even as our devices grow smarter. Could it be that we are already living in the beginning stages of what she foresaw? That the collapse of modern society doesn't come with explosions, but with quiet disconnection? In this moment of reflection, it's important not to fall into fear, but rather to awaken to the deeper lesson hidden within her vision. The point of such a prophecy isn't to scare, it's to stir us. Perhaps her message is a call to pause, to simplify, and to return to what's real: kindness, community, mindfulness, and the sacredness of the natural world. In the rush of modern life, we've forgotten to breathe, to listen, to live with purpose. Baba Vanga's life reminds us that wisdom can emerge from suffering, and that sometimes the answers don't come from outside experts, but from the quiet voices we're taught to ignore. So as we consider the possibility that her final vision is unfolding around us, let it not be a tale of doom, but a mirror. And in that mirror, let us see not the end, but the urgent need to begin again, with care, clarity, and compassion. Number 2. The final prophecy, the crown of glass. Baba Vanga's chilling prophecy, the world will wear a crown of glass, but it will crack from within, has begun to feel less like a cryptic message from the past and more like a mirror held up to the world we now live in. The crown of glass she spoke of seems to point unmistakably toward our digital age, a time when satellites circle the Earth, glass screens dominate our hands and homes, and entire cities grow smart by embedding technology into their foundation. On the surface, it appears we have entered a golden age of innovation. With just a tap, we access endless knowledge. With just a swipe, we connect across continents. Yet, as magnificent as this technological crown may seem, it is also delicate. Glass, after all, is beautiful, but easily shattered. That is the hidden truth embedded in Baba Vanga's words. Our civilization, though dazzling in its modernity, is fragile not because of external threats like wars or natural disasters, but because of what is happening within us. The real crack, as she foresaw, is spiritual and psychological, an inner erosion of the human spirit. As our devices grow smarter, many of us feel less connected, not more. Despite the illusion of constant contact, loneliness is quietly becoming a silent epidemic. Families sit in the same room but stare into different screens. Friendships grow shallow, sustained more by likes and comments than meaningful conversation. Our sense of purpose, once rooted in community, tradition, and the rhythms of nature, is now increasingly hijacked by algorithms and artificial stimulation. We've traded reflection for reaction, depth for convenience. In trying to keep up with the relentless speed of progress, many of us are losing our inner stillness, our groundedness, and, most importantly, our connection to what is real and sacred. This crown of glass also symbolizes how fragile our values have become. We're told that more data, more access, more innovation will lead to a better world. But what of wisdom? What of compassion or understanding or the quiet dignity of a simple life? These qualities aren't trending, and so they are often overlooked. And yet, when the glass begins to crack, when society feels overwhelmed, when mental health declines, when trust in institutions erodes, it becomes clear that it is not more technology we need, but more heart, more clarity, more connection to something deeper than the next upgrade. We are, in many ways, outpacing our own humanity. For those navigating this era, especially between the ages of 30 and 65, those who remember a world before the screen and who now must adapt to this new one, the challenge is not simply to keep up, but to hold on. Hold on to your inner values. Create space each day for stillness, whether through prayer, meditation, walking in nature, or simply sitting in silence without distractions. Teach the younger generation not only how to use technology, but how to remain human within it. We are the bridge generation, the ones who can remember what life felt like before the digital crown was placed upon our heads, and who can choose to live in a way that prevents it from shattering entirely. Baba Vanga's prophecy is not just a warning, it is a call to remember that real strength is not found in glass towers or glowing screens, but in the quiet resilience of the soul. And as the world moves faster and feels increasingly uncertain, our greatest power may lie in slowing down, reconnecting, and choosing depth over display. The crown may be fragile, but the human spirit, when rooted in wisdom and love, can endure far more than we imagine. Number 3. The collapse of infrastructure. Let's talk about something that might sound a little unsettling at first, but it's also a wake-up call we all need to hear. Baba Vanga, the blind Bulgarian mystic whose prophecies have fascinated people for decades, reportedly warned of a time when the metal veins would fail. While the phrase sounds poetic, its meaning couldn't be more relevant to the world we live in today. When she said metal veins, she was referring to the invisible but essential arteries of our modern world, the global internet systems, the power grids that keep our homes and hospitals running, the banking infrastructure that manages every transaction we make, and the vast supply chains that bring food, medicine, and necessities from one corner of the world to another. These are the lifelines of modern society, and right now they're showing signs of strain like never before. Just think back to the 2021 Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp outage. For nearly a whole day, over 3.5 billion people across the globe were suddenly cut off. Not just from social media, but from their businesses, families, and sources of information. It felt like a digital silence, and it reminded us just how much we rely on systems we rarely see. The following year, Texas faced a brutal winter storm that brought down the power grid, leaving millions without electricity or heat in freezing temperatures. This wasn't just a weather event. It exposed how fragile our infrastructure really is, even in one of the world's wealthiest nations. And it's not just local events. The Taiwan chip shortage may sound like a technical hiccup, but it disrupted car production around the globe. From Detroit to Tokyo, factories slowed or shut down because one small component made in one small part of the world couldn't be delivered on time. When one piece of the puzzle breaks, the whole picture falls apart. We are all more connected than we realize, and that connection, while powerful, also makes us incredibly vulnerable. A single cyber attack today could shut down a power grid, freeze bank accounts, or cripple a city's communication system. These aren't science fiction scenarios. They are warnings based on events we've already seen, and they hint at something deeper, that modern society is built on complex systems that can be broken with surprising ease. So here's a question worth sitting with. What happens to a world that depends on invisible systems when those systems no longer work? The lesson we can take from this is clear and urgent. Our modern infrastructure is not as secure or unshakable as we often believe. It doesn't take a massive war or a natural disaster to cause collapse. Sometimes all it takes is a frozen power line, a single missing chip, or a well-placed line of malicious code. And when that happens, the ripple effect can touch every aspect of our daily lives, from the food we eat to the way we connect with loved ones. But here's where we shift from fear to wisdom. Recognizing this vulnerability is not meant to make us panic. It's meant to make us prepare. It's a reminder that resilience doesn't come from more technology, but from stronger communities, simpler living, and mindful awareness of what really matters. When systems fail, what will support you? Your neighbors, your skills, your ability to adapt, and your inner calm. These are the real foundations of a balanced life. The more we simplify and reconnect with what's essential, like nature, community, and self-reliance, the less power these fragile systems will have over us. Baba Vanga's warning wasn't just about collapse. It was about awakening. So I invite you to reflect on this. What can you do today to strengthen your life from the inside out, so that no matter what fails outside, your inner peace remains unshaken? The message here is simple but powerful. Our dependence on complex systems has made us vulnerable, but we can reclaim our strength by living more simply, staying grounded, and preparing our hearts and homes to weather any storm. Don't wait for the collapse to begin building a more meaningful and resilient life. Start today, one step at a time, with wisdom, kindness, and awareness. If you're still watching, it means you sense that something bigger is unfolding. Comment "awakening moment" to show you're not ignoring the signs. There's more truth ahead. Stay tuned to understand what this moment truly means for us all. Number 4. Emotional collapse. People will stop feeling. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how hard it's become lately to feel? I'm not just talking about emotions like sadness or joy. I mean that deep sense of connection, that inner response when we witness suffering or when we see something beautiful. Baba Vanga, the blind mystic whose prophecies have stirred the world for decades, warned of a chilling phase in our society's collapse, an emotional collapse. She said, "People will stop feeling." At first, that may sound strange. How can people stop feeling? But look around and be honest with yourself. Do we really feel like we used to? Today we scroll past images of war-torn cities, starving children, injustice unfolding in real time. It takes us less than a second to swipe it all away. We tell ourselves we're informed, we're aware, we're woke. But awareness without compassion is just noise. There's a flood of information every time we pick up our phones, and in this sea of constant input, our hearts are slowly going silent. It's not that people don't care, it's that many no longer know how to care. We're exhausted mentally and emotionally. Psychologists call it compassion fatigue, but perhaps what's scarier is that many don't even notice it's happening. Now, here's where it gets even more eerie. As humans become more emotionally disconnected, artificial intelligence is getting better at pretending to care. AI can now simulate empathy. It says the right words, responds at the right times, even uses the right tone. Meanwhile, many real people have grown cold, reactive instead of responsive, distracted instead of present, detached instead of connected. This is what Baba Vanga saw coming. Not just a breakdown of society's systems, but a collapse of the human spirit. Think of this. The Buddha once said, "An insincere and evil friend is more to be feared than a wild beast. A wild beast may wound your body, but an evil friend will wound your mind." In this context, our greatest danger isn't just what happens outside us, it's what we allow to die within us. We risk becoming strangers to our own hearts. And isn't that the true fall of modern society, not just in politics or economics, but in the loss of basic human warmth, kindness, and empathy? So what can we do? Maybe the answer lies in slowing down, becoming truly present, and relearning how to feel again. When was the last time you listened, really listened, to someone without checking your phone or planning your reply? When did you last allow yourself to cry at a story that wasn't your own? When did you last look at another human being and see them, not their social media profile, not their opinions, but their suffering, their joy, their essence? It's easy to point fingers at technology or society, but the real shift has to begin within. As the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once taught, the most precious gift we can offer others is our presence. When mindfulness embraces those we love, they will bloom like flowers, and yet too often we are here but not really here. This emotional numbness is a form of spiritual poverty, and it's spreading fast. So I'll leave you with this question. What are you doing to keep your heart awake? How do you protect your empathy in a world that rewards detachment? Because if the heart is truly the center of our humanity, then the fall of modern society isn't marked by economic collapse or war. It's marked by the quiet moment we stop feeling each other's pain and joy. Let's not allow that moment to define us. Let's feel again. Let's care, even when it's hard. Let's keep our humanity alive, not just for ourselves, but for a future that still needs us to love deeply, act kindly, and awaken to what really matters. Number 5. The suppressed prophecies, hidden warnings. Throughout history, there have always been voices that warned us of the storms ahead. Voices we often ignore until the thunder is overhead. Baba Vanga, the blind mystic from Bulgaria, whose predictions have both baffled and fascinated the world, spoke of many such storms. But among her many forecasts, there were prophecies that seemed to vanish, whispers that were never allowed to reach the public ear. According to sources close to her and documents hinted at by regional intelligence networks, Baba Vanga's insights were closely monitored and in some cases reportedly suppressed. Why would certain predictions be kept hidden? The answer may lie in their discomforting relevance to power structures, those very forces that benefit when the public remains unaware or misled. Her cryptic statement, "Leaders will wear masks not of cloth but of faces," resonates profoundly in our modern world. It's no longer about political masks or public relations tactics. It's about the age of deception we've stepped into. Deepfakes, curated personas, and influencers shaped by marketing teams dominate our screens, while the true decision-makers often hide in plain sight. We now live in a time where leaders may appear authentic but are, in many ways, constructed illusions. A troubling reality that erodes public trust and deepens disconnection from truth. This theme of illusion and control deepens when we consider another of her eerie warnings. The sky will become a net, and all who fly in it will be caught. To some, this might have once sounded like poetic metaphor, but today it reflects an uncomfortable truth. Our skies are increasingly filled with surveillance technologies. Satellites tracking movement, drones capturing every angle, and artificial intelligence analyzing behavioral patterns from above. What once was the open expanse of the sky has become a web, silently capturing data about us, sometimes without our consent or awareness. And it's not just the powerful who are affected. Ordinary people, too, are now participants in a system of constant digital exposure. With every step we take online, every device we carry, we're weaving ourselves deeper into this net. In a world where privacy is becoming a privilege rather than a right, we must ask ourselves, what are we trading in return for convenience, speed, or so-called security? Perhaps most haunting of all is Baba Vanga's statement, "Truth will become poison." At first glance, it feels dramatic, but when viewed through the lens of our current digital and cultural climate, it becomes chillingly accurate. In a time where sharing an unpopular truth can lead to social shaming, job loss, or digital exile, we have to ask, have we begun to fear truth more than lies? Algorithmic bias, cancel culture, and the manipulation of online narratives have created an atmosphere where truth is no longer something we seek, but something many avoid, either out of fear of consequence or comfort in illusion. In this way, truth has indeed become dangerous, not because it is wrong, but because it threatens those who benefit from confusion. And yet, despite all this, we are not powerless. Awareness is the first step toward wisdom. When we start questioning what we see, what we are told, and even what we believe, we begin the slow but necessary journey toward clarity and freedom. For those aged 30 to 65 navigating this complex modern world, the lesson here is not to be fearful but to be mindful. Baba Vanga's suppressed prophecies are not merely forecasts, they are invitations to awaken. In our careers, relationships, and even our digital habits, we must cultivate discernment. Pause before reacting, reflect before sharing, and always seek the deeper layer behind the headlines. We must support one another in reclaiming truth, not as a weapon, but as a guidepost toward integrity and wisdom. As modern society leans into technological expansion, let us also lean into compassion, community, and conscious living. For only then can we truly begin to mend what is falling apart. Not just around us, but within us. Would you like me to continue with the next section in the same tone and style? The fall of modern society isn't just a prediction, it's a wake-up call. If you feel it too, drop a time of change in the comments. Keep watching to find out how Baba Vanga's visions could help you navigate what's coming next. Number 6. The Mirror Metaphor. Humanity's Test. Let's pause for a moment and reflect together, not out of fear, but from a place of honesty. Baba Vanga, the blind mystic from Bulgaria whose predictions have stirred both awe and controversy, once spoke not just of events, but of deep spiritual truths hidden within those events. One of her most powerful messages wasn't about the collapse of modern society in the physical sense, it was about the mirror that collapse holds up to our collective soul. You see, what she offered wasn't just a prophecy of doom, it was a test A moment in time where we, as humanity, would be asked not to panic, but to reflect. She once said, in essence, the storm is not coming to destroy you, it is coming to reveal you. And if we listen closely, that's where the true teaching begins. Now ask yourself, what does this storm reveal in you, in your community, in how we, as a species, respond to change, uncertainty, and fear? This isn't just about political systems failing or economies teetering. It's about how we treat each other when the ground beneath us begins to shake. Do we grow colder, more divided, more selfish? Or do we lean into kindness, into courage, into compassion? The Buddha once said, "Just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life." And perhaps this is what Baba Vanga was pointing to, not a punishment from fate, but a spiritual crossroad where humanity must choose: survive as hollow shells of habit and fear, or live fully, with heart, with empathy, with awakened minds. You see, collapse is not just the falling of structures, it's the shedding of illusions. It's when the masks come off and the true character of people and societies is laid bare. That's why Vanga's metaphor of the mirror is so profound. Because a mirror doesn't lie, it doesn't filter, it just reflects what is already there. And in times of crisis, we are each given a mirror. Some will see despair, some will see potential. What do you see? What will you choose to carry forward when everything familiar begins to fade? In Buddhism, we are often reminded that impermanence is not to be feared, but embraced. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. That was the teaching of the Buddha. So when we talk about the fall of modern society, maybe it's not a fall in the way we usually think of it. Maybe it's more like a return to what matters, a return to human connection, simplicity, presence. Maybe it's a shedding of systems that no longer serve us, so that something more compassionate, more truthful can grow in its place. But here's the thing, you have a role in this, not just as a bystander, but as an active participant. Every choice you make in the face of fear is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, love over judgment, awareness over denial, you are shaping that world. And yes, it's not easy. It never is. But as the Zen saying goes, no snowflake ever falls in the wrong place. You are not here by accident. You are part of this moment for a reason. So I ask you, with all sincerity, what kind of reflection do you want to see in the mirror? And how will you respond to this test? Not just with your mind, but with your heart. Because maybe the real prophecy isn't that society will fall, but that we will finally rise. Not in power, but in presence. Not in wealth, but in wisdom. Not in domination, but in harmony. Let that be your question today. Let that be your invitation. Number 7. A path to rebirth. Awakening beneath the rubble. Though Baba Vanga's warnings may seem dark at first glance, buried within them is not only a forecast of collapse, but a hidden invitation to transformation. A quiet path to rebirth waiting beneath the rubble of a crumbling modern world. Amid the growing noise of digital overload, social fragmentation, and environmental strain, more people across the globe are beginning to sense that the answers we seek are not ahead of us in more speed, more tech, or more consumption, but rather behind us, in ancient wisdom, simplicity, and silence. We see a rising interest in meditation, off-grid lifestyles, and sustainable living, not as trends, but as symptoms of a collective yearning to return to what is real. There is a growing realization that peace does not come from the outside in, but from the inside out, and that perhaps the earth itself, through natural disasters, ecological imbalance, and emotional fatigue, is whispering a truth we've long forgotten, that we are not separate from nature, and until we live in harmony with it, our societies will continue to fracture. As the old world begins to shake and shatter, it's worth remembering that glass must break before it can be reshaped into something more beautiful and whole. In that breaking, there is both loss and possibility. Baba Vanga's message can be seen not only as prophecy, but as a kind of spiritual wake-up call, urging us to look within, to reconnect with the earth, and to rediscover our shared humanity before it's too late. The phrase, "Only those who listen to the earth will remember how to speak to each other," is more than poetic. It is a spiritual diagnosis for our time. In forgetting how to be still, to feel, and to truly hear, we've lost not just touch with the natural world, but with each other, leading to deeper loneliness, anxiety, and division. And yet, there is hope, not through resistance, but through remembering. By embracing simplicity, cultivating inner awareness, and slowing down enough to see and feel again, we open a door, not backward into the past, but forward into a wiser way of living. This shift does not require grand gestures, only daily choices, stepping outside more often, reducing unnecessary noise, listening more deeply, and valuing relationships over possessions. If we can accept that the fall of modern society may also be the rise of something more humane and conscious, then perhaps we can greet these turbulent times not only with fear, but with humility and courage. The journey ahead will not be easy, but for those willing to wake up, this could be the beginning of a far more meaningful world. Are we ready to rebuild, not just society, but ourselves? And so, as we reflect on Baba Vanga's haunting insights, let us remember, this isn't just a story about collapse, but a call to awaken. What we choose to do now, in this moment of quiet unraveling, will shape the future not only of our society, but of our shared humanity. If this video gave you something to think about, please like, share, and subscribe to The Journey of Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss our upcoming explorations into truth, mindfulness, and the deeper patterns shaping our world. Let's walk this path of awareness together, one step, one breath, one choice at a time.